sadness, 'cause it's speech you are drowning. I want to know.
Hey, this is Walt from StogieReview.com here with another video cigar review. And this time I've got a small, I guess it's a boutique-ish blend, or I guess it's a boutique-ish brand. I say boutique-ish because it's a cigar produced by a very popular manufacturer. However, it's produced for someone else, so there's a brand owner involved, which means limited distribution and not so much limited production, but it's still in the early stages of the game, so you're not likely to find these all over the place. And the cigar is the Malfetano. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And this is the Corona. I'm not quite sure whether or what the size is in particular. I don't know whether these are traditional sizes or if they are a little bit different. I just happened to send the brand owner a quick message to see if he could provide me with the dimensions for all these cigars. He's been really quick to get back to me, and it totally slipped my mind that I was missing that information. But as I was saying, this cigar is produced by a popular manufacturer. That manufacturer is Alec Bradley, or Alan Rubin of Alec Bradley. But actually, before I get into the specifics of the cigar, let's do a pre-light inspection, and then I can talk while I light, and sort of kill two birds with one stone. First and foremost, the band on this cigar is beautiful. I really like the band. The colors look good. There's actually a photograph in the band of a city in Italy. And this cigar is named after the brand owner's grandmother. It's her last name, and the photo in the band, which you probably can't see, is actually a photograph of the town that she came from in Italy. And there's a lot of information about this cigar that I found really interesting, at least how much was provided me as opposed to what's typically provided a reviewer or the general public. So we'll get more into that later. But the band looks excellent. It's on there pretty snug. I don't know whether it's going to cause any wrapper damage or not, but I'm not getting any movement out of it, which is mildly concerning, but we'll see what happens, when it's time to remove the band. The coloring is great. It's nice and consistent head to foot. There's a consistent sheen as well, which is a little dull. I mean, there's a little bit of shine to it, but very little. The wrapper is nice and smooth. Consistent color, consistent sheen. There's one vein in particular that's a little on the large side, and it runs for a good portion of the cigar, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just looking at the foot, it doesn't look like it's overly packed, so the draw shouldn't be much of a problem, at least not the way it looks, despite it being a smaller ring gauge cigar. It's kind of soft at the foot, but I'm not really surprised. There's nothing to support the tobacco down there. There's a little bit of a hollow spot right here. Another one right here. Actually, it's kind of small, but it's there nonetheless. So far, so good. Two small soft spots. It's not really raising any concern. It's not mushy, and they don't seem overly large, but they're definitely there. So let's go ahead and get the cigar clipped, and we'll get into this review. The pre-light draw's got a little bit of resistance to it, but it's not bad at all. And it's got a nice, a mild, sweet and floral tone to it. So I think we're ready to get started and get this thing lit. So as I do that, I had mentioned that this is a Corona. I'm not sure whether it's traditional sizing or not. I'll try to get that information to you later. The wrapper is Criollo 98 from the Trojes in Honduras. It's Viso. The binder is also from that same region in Honduras. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name again. It is also Criollo 98, and it is the Seco priming. Filler is Honduran from that same region, and Nicaraguan Jalapa. These are made in Honduras in the the Alec Bradley factory, I believe. It has this particular name, but I don't want to butcher it when I try to say it. It's in Danlí, Honduras. So, and a little bit of the backstory. As I'd mentioned that these were new to me up until recently. I was talking with the brand owner on Facebook, and he asked me if I'd be interested in reviewing the cigars. And I thought, yeah, it sounds cool. I like trying new cigars. And he sent me one of each of the 3 sizes available. There's a Corona, Bellicoso, and a Robusto. The MSRP on those cigars, I'll have to, oh, you know what? I didn't put it in the notes. I think it ranges from about $7 to $8.30 is the range for those 3 cigars. And the quote I have direct from the brand owner is, Malfetano is my grandmother's last name. She came from Italy, and the picture on the band is the town she came from. The color blue in the band is my wife and I's favorite color, and the process of making a cigar was long yet fun. It took almost a year. And more interesting is that they went through 40 trial blends to finally come up with a cigar they were very happy with. And the proofing of the presentation of the cigar, the band, the box, all that, there were 30 proofs. So a lot of time went into creating this cigar, so we'll see how it goes. It's interesting, this smaller size seems to have a little bit more kick to it. The last one I had, which was the Robusto, I believe, it seemed a little more subdued, I guess because of the larger ring gauge. But I've got my cigar lit. I am smoking this with a beverage. I'm not drinking water. I'm actually pairing it with a little bit of rum. In this case, it's Zaya. It's a little on the sweet side, and I think it'll pair well with the cigar. If not, I'll just stick the rum off to the side, finish smoking the cigar, and swap it out with water. So sit tight. I'll be back. We'll take a look at the first third of the Malfetano cigar, the Corona, and we'll see how it goes. So sit tight. All right. Well, I'm back. It's been about, I'd say, 20 minutes since I got started. Cigar is burning nice and slow. I've got a fairly decent ash. There's very little flaking going on. It doesn't seem terribly strong. A little bit more than this, and generally the ash falls off. I had it fall once, and I picked it up a little too fast. Well, actually what happened was when the ash fell off, crashed onto the table, and it stayed firm and solid. I was able to reach down, pick up the ash in one piece, and toss it in the ashtray. But I picked it up too fast after it fell. I ended up burning my thumb. That was a pleasant experience. But the ash is it's really solid in the sense that it's strong. If it falls, it won't bust apart like a really sandy textured ash does. But it isn't. It doesn't have much shear strength in the sense that if you move the cigar around a little bit, the ash, if it gets a little bit longer than this, will fall off. And again, doesn't take much to knock the ash off by tapping it. The draw has opened up a little bit. The first couple of puffs, I don't know whether there was some expansion from the heat, but I was getting a little bit of smoke. There was a lot more resistance than in the cold draw, and I started to worry a little bit. I thought, maybe the heat's going to cause some expansion in the cigar, swell up the tobacco, sort of close off those air channels, and I'm going to be fighting this thing all the way. But after 2-3 puffs, I don't know whether the tobacco sort of relaxed a little bit or what the case was, but the draw opened back up. It is now what I got during the pre-light. So far so good. Getting a good supply of smoke, easy to get through the sinuses. For whatever reason, the wrapper seems to require a little bit of attention. It's actually the second time I'm touching it up. Not because the cigar is going to go out, but because the wrapper seems to be burning slower than the filler. So just to to keep things all, at pace with one another, I'm touching up the ash, or touching up the outside of the burn line just a little bit, just so that everything stays consistent. And as I think I mentioned it right before I turned the camera off, this one definitely seems a little more stout than the larger size, and I'm liking that. There's some spiciness through the nose, and the flavor profile is interesting. Up front, there's a nice mild sweetness, sort of like that floral tone that I got earlier on. As the smoke settles a little bit, you get more of a woody flavor on the palate, and I guess it is what I would imagine bark to taste like. It's got a very rich, deep, sort of woody or earthy tone to it, and I'm also enjoying that. Neither one stays on the palate for very long. I stick it in the ashtray, I pick up my rum and take a sip of the rum. And the combination between the two is excellent. You get a little bit of sweetness up front from the cigar. It dissipates. You get a very rich, heavy, earthy tone from the cigar, which is nice as well. That begins to dissipate. You pick up the rum, which has got a really nice sweet flavor to it, and it sort of completes the cycle, brings you right back around again, and the two pair really well together, and I'm really happy about that. Even though that I really do like Corojo Criollo flavors with Scotch, I really like this rum combination. So maybe after the rum's finished, I'll reach for the Scotch and just play around with that and see how it goes. But so far so good. I'm really enjoying the cigar. Medium bodied, a little bit of spice through the sinuses. Finish is fairly short. I mean, there's a little bit of body to it, but it dissipates really quickly. And I don't know if there's really anything else to mention about the cigar itself. I haven't heard back about the sizes. I'm trying to be adamant about that and keep checking, but I'm assuming they're probably going to be, traditional sizes, and there's not like an oddball size mixed in there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to keep smoking. You take a quick break from me. I'll be back in just a second. We're really not going to take a break, but I'll be right back. We'll take a look at the second third of my Malfetano cigar. I think I was calling it Malfetero, but Malfetano cigar, and I'm struggling with the name. I keep thinking it's something else, but at any rate, I'll be right back, so sit tight. Alright, well, I'm back, and it's been about 50 minutes total since I lit my cigar, and it's burning nice and slow. I'm actually kind of surprised. I expected to be further along at this point, but cigar's burning nice and slow, and I'm really happy about that. The flavor profile is really interesting. It's holding my attention, and it's going very, very well with the rum. The interesting dynamic that I was getting earlier, where I was getting a sweetness up front and a very dense kind of woody flavor in the back, seemed to be kind of getting closer together and melding into one flavor. There is still a distinguishable sweetness up front, but there isn't that delay before it goes from sweet to really densely woody, if that makes any kind of sense. The flavors, the separation between the two flavors seems to be dissipating, and before long I really expect it to be more like one combined flavor as the cigar burns down. At this point, it's still very interesting that I'm getting the two distinct flavors that are hitting the palate in two different spots. I mean, the reaction from the smoke, I'm getting definitely. I can definitely feel the reaction on the tip of my tongue up front, and then it settles, and I get more of a sensation on the back of the tongue. And with the aromatics and all that going through the sinuses, it really makes an interesting dynamic. Through the sinuses, I'm getting a nice spicy, a nice sharp spicy aroma. It kind of hits the palate, and it's gone really quickly, and I like that in the cigar. It has a sort of a crispness to it that I don't know, kind of perks me up. It really makes me look toward the smoke and want to puff on the cigar more, just because it's got it's almost like a cleansing effect. I kind of like that sharp spiciness. The body hasn't changed much. It's still medium. The finish is easy on the palate. It's still pretty short. I mean, the medium-bodied mouthfeel doesn't linger long. The flavors don't linger long, and before you know it, you're feeling refreshed, or not necessarily refreshed, but you're feeling as though all the flavor is dissipated and you're ready to go for the next puff, which is also kind of what surprises me as far as the cigar burning as slow as it is. With this short. With these short flavors on the palate, I find myself reaching for the cigar more often, and that leaves me kind of surprised as to why it's burning as long as it is. So it's good. It's just it's interesting. The only complaint that I have so far is that I put too much ice in my rum, and it's kind of watered down. So you don't get I'm not getting the interesting dynamics between the rum and the cigar that I was getting earlier, because it's kind of watered down. It's more of a subdued dynamic. But I'm just about finished with the rum, so maybe I'll put less ice in the next round. But so far, I'm really enjoying the cigar. I'm happy with it, and I'm looking forward to smoking some more. I probably should mention the burn line and all that. The wrapper still is burning kind of slow compared to the filler, so I am touching it up every once in a while. It's not causing major issues, but you can see that there's a little bit of wave to the burn line. There's a little bit of funkiness going on with the ash, and I'm guessing that's because the wrapper seems to be burning at a different rate than the filler. It requires me to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on so that I can keep everything burning uniformly, but I really don't mind it so much. I know some people despise needing to reach for the lighter and spending extra time touching up the cigar, but a lot of times I really don't mind. If I'm smoking in a setting like this where I've got the lighter in front of me, it's not a matter of digging around in my pocket to find my pocket torch. It's almost a different vibe. I don't mind reaching for the lighter and touching it up real quick. I would mind if I was trying to read or something like that, but I'm sitting in front of the computer talking to a camera, so I really don't mind. But again, I'm happy with the cigar, and I'm going to take another break. So sit tight. I'll be right back. We'll take a look at the final third. After that, I'll come back I'll come back. We'll do the final third. I'll wrap the cigar up, and then I'll let you be on your way. It's obvious that I'm a little rusty, so bear with me. All right. Well, I am back, and it's been, I think, an hour and 20 minutes total. That seems about right. And cigar's going well. There's been a little bit of a change that I'm not real crazy about, but it's still smoking well nonetheless. As you can see, the ash is nice and compacted. I've got just a tiny bit of flaking going on every now and again. The burn line has a slight wave to it. Requires occasional touch-up to keep the wrapper and filler burning at the same time. But really, hasn't been all that bad. The body hasn't changed much. It's still medium. Finish is easy on the palate. It's smooth. It's short. I'm still getting a nice crisp spiciness through the sinus. It's lingering a little bit longer now. It's not so sharp. But I still like it. The only thing that I'm not real crazy about is the change in the flavor profile. As I mentioned in the last third, there were two distinct flavor profiles that were sort of coming together. The time span in between was reducing, so it gave me the impression that they were going to meld into one flavor. While that is true, I'm not getting any sweetness from the cigar anymore. It's really dense and just a really dark, deep, kind of earthy flavor. And I found that I really appreciated that sweetness up front. It made the smoke very interesting, and it just went tremendously well with the rum. Now the flavor is just so deep and dense that the rum seems to be contradicting the cigar. They're not playing well together anymore. But the cigar itself is still kind of nice. I do plan on smoking it some more, but I really wish that those two distinct flavors would have lingered a little bit longer so that I could have gotten more of a playfulness with the smoke and the rum, if you will. It's getting a little warm on the fingers, but not completely surprised because of the length of the cigar. But all in all, it's still a solid cigar. It's decent. I'm just not real crazy about this last bit of the cigar. The band popped off without much trouble. It was stuck fast to the wrapper, which caused a tiny crack when I pulled it off, but I seem to have smoked through it without issue. So I'm enjoying it. I was enjoying it more than I am now, but I'm a little bummed too, because it was just going so well, and it was pairing just fantastically with the wine, or with the rum, and now it's kind of enjoy one or the other, and I want that dynamic to be back, but at the same time I want to keep smoking the cigar and see where it goes. And that heavy, earthy, woody kind of flavor is transitioning through the sinuses now as well. And it's not as light and as crisp as it tasted earlier. Still medium bodied. I don't know that I would really say it's got much nicotine kick. I haven't noticed any. Just sort of searching for something after the fact, but it's just more of a bitter, dense, dark sort of flavor. As far as the wrap-up is concerned, I loved this cigar early on, up until actually just about 10-15 minutes ago. The flavors were really interesting. There was a lot going on. I found it tremendously enjoyable, and now it's not so much. It's one of those cigars where if you smoke it to the band and toss it, you're golden. But if you smoke it down beyond the band, now the flavor profile sort of melds into something I'm not real fond of. The only other thing that really is a bit of a downer is the price, and I can't say that it's not a fair price to ask for this cigar. It's $6.90 for the Corona, and the only reason I say that is because there's a brand owner involved. When you're buying direct from the manufacturer, the price always seems to be reduced. Think of this cigar sort of like a product from not so much San Lucia, but sort of like Pete Johnson or Dion. You've got a manufacturer producing a cigar for this one individual. The manufacturer needs to make money. The brand owner needs to make money, and the end result is a boutique cigar that costs a little bit more than a manufacturer direct cigar. I say not so much like Sam because there's such a tight-knit tie-in with Oliva that you really don't see that passover to the consumer. But in this case, $6.90, even though I did really enjoy it, at $7 for a Corona, I'd be hesitant to pick it up off the store shelf. I certainly would every now and again, but that $7 price tag for the Corona would be kind of nagging at me in the back of my mind. But again, there's a brand owner involved, so what do you do? It is what it is. So again, really enjoyed the cigar. Definitely preferred the earlier portions of the cigar, not so much after the band, but again, good solid cigar, no problems aside from the wrapper requiring a little bit more attention with the lighter. But as I said, in a situation like this, I really don't mind. If I were out and about or at the cigar shop and I had to keep digging in my pocket for the lighter, I might mind it, but in this case I really didn't. So there you have it. There is the review of the Malfetano cigar. I keep wanting to add an R in there somewhere. But there you have it. So until next week, happy smoking.